Welcome to the 381st episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today, we have Mr. Brad Sugars. He's the founder of Action Coach, started in 1993. He has over a couple of thousand franchise locations in over 70 countries, so this guy knows what it takes to grow a business. So you're in for a treat. If you missed 380, go check it out. David Breyer. He and I were keynote speakers at a conference in Slovenia back in November, December last year. And he is the brains behind some major brands. His book is Brand Intervention, 33 Steps to Transform the Brand You Have into the Brand You Need. Super smart guy. Follow him on LinkedIn. Very creative, very insightful, very smart. So you will get a lot out of that episode and the content he puts out. Andy Paul is coming up in 382. Smart dude, sales trainer, kind of like me. Focuses on the human side of things, kind of like me. So we had a great talk. I'm glad we crossed paths. So you're in for a treat with those guys. All right. Another treat I've been mentioning, 30-day sales growth. Come get some help. Get the help you need affordably. Pick my brain, ask questions, get all of the content that I've created for that program, as well as the Make Every Sale course, workbooks, videos, supplemental content, agreements, contracts, pages and pages of questions you can ask prospects. You can ask at networking events when you're prospecting, because whoever's asking the questions is in control of the conversation. Stop showing up, spraying and praying, puking on everyone, and ask better questions. All right, that's what you get in the program. So enroll now. It's a one-time payment. Once this is finished being built out later this year, it'll be an annual subscription, but you'll be grandfathered in. So lock in the best price now, 30daysalesgrowth.com. Now, let's bring on our guest. Brad Sugars, all the way from Vegas. Welcome to the Sales Podcast, man. How the heck are you?
Hey, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good today. Vegas is beautiful weather, so what's there to complain about?
Look, I'm going to complain, okay? This book...
I know what you're going to say.
It should come with a weight belt and a warning that says, lift with your legs, okay? I carry this around, and I don't go to the gym. I pass it from hand to hand. Oh, the shoulder.
It's almost 3 pounds. It's tipping the weight scale at 392 pages. When I wrote this one, I thought, because this is number 17, it's like, I'm going to go all out with this book. We went full color, full everything. And yeah, 3 pounds is a big book.
Dude, I think like when they walk in the Vatican carrying that big Bible, I don't think it weighs this much. I mean, I'm going to ask. I'm Googling it right now. How much does that big Bible weigh? This might be more.
Look, it's interesting. I saw there was a big delivery to one of our team in, I think, Turkey or somewhere. Got like 100 of them, and they literally carried them in on a cart thing. So
it's like you're sweating when you carry it in. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah, this thing is beautiful and it's good. So this is your 17th book?
Yeah, number 17.
Oh my goodness.
How do I keep coming up with them? Actually, you know how I came up with this one? How
did you come up with this one? So let me tell everybody. So it's pulling profits out of a hat. Adding zeros to your company isn't magic. So for those of you listening, and maybe you're just tuning in and you're like on a plane, you're on a train, you're on a bike, you're on a swim. So Brad's the founder of Action Coach. I mean, only like 1,000 offices. I mean, look, I try to get big people. Some people couldn't make it, so Brad graciously filled in. So I mean, 1,000 offices. So we're just give them a few minutes, okay? I promise you, if it's not any good, we'll end it and I'll delete this, okay? But anyway, how did you come up with this?
I was sitting with a buddy of mine, and he literally says to me, "You know what? I think it's like magic how these big companies like IKEA and Amazon, it's magic how they make money." And I looked at him, and I said, "You don't really believe that, do you?" And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Magic is just a formula, the same as business is just a formula." And he said, "Well, what's the formula?" And after a long conversation with him and drawing stuff on a napkin, I thought, probably should write a book about that. So here we are 2 years later. I finally got the thing written and published and all that, and a little bit of work done.
Does it get any easier by the 17th?
It does. It does because you understand the process of creating a model that people can easily and readily understand. And that's what, in this book, looking at the 5 disciplines for exponential growth led us to a simple, easy model that showed you how to actually take the 5 constituents, being the owners of the company, the community, the employees, the management, the customers, and say, how do you make the business work for all of these constituents, and how do you make it grow exponentially? And I think, that took a fair bit of work and a bit of research going through our clients that actually were having exponential growth and say, what's the common factor?
Right. So you grew up in Australia. Did you start your coaching business there? Did you move to the U.S.? Did you start it there, then expand in the U.S.? How did you get started?
I started in Australia and expanded through Asia. And then from Asia, we came to the United States, Canada, Mexico, down through Latin America, and then hit England and expanded through Europe. We just opened Russia, which is country number 88 for us.
Good grief.
So we're 26 years old as a company. So we've been working on this a long while.
So, you basically started right out of college.
Something like that. Yeah. No, I started in business when I was in my teenage years because I always worked out that business is something that anybody can do if they learn enough and study enough and work hard enough. And, so that's sort of a big thing for me.
So, all right. So you're in business as a teenager. You go to university. Then, starting your own business is hard enough, right? And now you're helping people, I imagine, both start companies, but also get more out of existing companies. What has stayed the same in 26 years?
People. If you want a great business, you got to have great people. That has not changed, and it won't change. It's the same for any industry. It's the same for any business. Your people build the business. And if you build your people, they build a better business. You can't build a great business with average people. It just doesn't work that way.
Right.
And I'll tell you, fun story. When I first learned that, I think I was 20. I went into my dad and I had a photocopy business. So, you know what, Dad, I just can't get good people. And my dad's a very blunt man, Wes. He turns and looks at me and he goes, son, you get the people you deserve. I'm like, what? He says, you're an average manager running an average business. Highest caliber employee you're going to get is average. And you can see where I got my motivational streak from, obviously. I sit there with my dad and I think, but he's right. He's so right. He's on the money. If I don't build my people, they ain't building the business. And if I don't build me, great people don't want to work for an average manager. So, that's where I had to get to work. And here we are today.
So what'd you do?
I went to work on learning management, learning leadership. Back in those days, I had to read. And I remember as a young man, actually 16 years old, I got to see Jim Rohn in seminar in the Brisbane City Town Hall, and I ran up to him afterwards and said, Mr. Rohn, what's the one thing a young man can do? And he said, son, just read a book a week for the rest of your life. And that was the start. I was lucky enough at 16 to be exposed to stuff that most people never get exposed to. It opened my eyes to a whole bunch of learning. And so, Mr. Rohn was a very, very smart man. And he made a simple statement that day that you got to work harder on yourself than you do on your job or on your business. And I knew that if I got better at business, then business would get easier. And that's basically what ended up being the case. And as I started teaching other people some of the same stuff and then teaching them marketing and stuff. And now my coaches, I got some of the best coaches in the world on my team, and I'm lucky enough to have them on my team. So, I build them so they keep building the business for us.
Well, back then the average book only weighed like 3/4 of a pound. So this is like reading an entire year's worth of material. I'm just saying.
Yeah. It's, well, one of the things, and this, I give kudos to that to my co-author, Monty Wyatt. Monty is one of the most amazing executive business coaches or corporate business coaches. He works with Fortune 500 companies and stuff like that. And Monty is one of the most detail-oriented people because he says, Brad, if you're going to teach people, you got to teach them not just what to do, but how to do it and why to do it. And so with that in mind, and the graphic design team definitely made it easy because they made it, they gave everything a function and they gave everything a visual representation. So when people read it, they get it. That's, I guess, the core behind it. There's no use putting out a book that people read it and go, oh, I can't do that. It's like, I've read so many books over the years where I read it and go, well, that makes sense, but what am I going to do? Everything I've ever written has always been about, okay, here's what you do.
Right. Yeah, I love the practical side of things. Having big goals, big vision boards, that's fine. But it's like, okay, it's 3:17. What are you going to do between now and 4 p.m.
Yeah.
to grow your business? to get towards that point, like, well, I mean, I was going to like maybe reorganize my desk, and I don't know, I'd maybe look at Twitter for a minute. You know, it's like, I think these big, hairy, audacious goals are killing people.
I was teaching someone the other day, I was teaching them about, granular goal setting. And they said, what do you mean granular goal setting? I said, well, okay, what's your daily goals? Show me your 5 daily goals. Every day, what are the goals you have to achieve every day? And they said, well, I don't have daily goals. I said, well, then you don't have annual goals. And he looked at me and said, what do you mean I don't have annual goals? I got annual goals. I said, yeah, but you're not achieving them. You don't have dailies. You don't have granular goals. And there's an interesting part for every company, Wes. I look at the team and they try and, they have these things called key performance indicators. I said, well, hang on. Instead of giving people measures to see if they did any good, why not give them all goals? Why not have 5 goals per employee per day? See what comes. So just a simple switch of mindset.
Right. So you talked about, you kind of just said it in passing, teaching people business and teaching people marketing. I mean, are marketing and business, are they different? Is it one and the same?
No.
Is it all marketing and then maybe just have an okay product because you're just marketing like crazy so you'll make money? Is it all business? Is it 90% business and 10% marketing? Because I just asked this question of David Breyer and his books. Damn, this is the day of big mighty books. Hercules couldn't lift these.
We're getting you ready for your jiu-jitsu class. We're keeping the muscles up. So that's the way it is.
It made me weak before class. So on my beat up neck, it's your fault, man.
I'm feeling sorry for you, Wes. I'm feeling sorry for you. What we found is there's 5 core disciplines for exponential growth. So it's not all one or all the other. If all 5 disciplines are actually running well, then you actually see exponential growth in a business. But if we just start with the mindset of exponential growth, average business person, average salesperson, they're sort of looking at it going, well, if I get 10, 20, 30% growth, maybe even 50%, they're happy. And what we look at is how do you get 10 times growth? How do you get 30 times growth? If I said, actually, I was coaching someone the other day and I said, what was your growth last year? And he said, 15%. I said, great. We're going to shoot for 150. And he looked at me kind of weird. And I said, no, we're adding a 0. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, your brain right now is only asking the question, how do I grow by 15%? Your brain should be asking the question, how do I grow by 150 or 1,500%? If the same level of brain matter was applied to growing by 150, and that's where that exponential growth, and it crushes me that business people and sales guys and gals, they're still trying to focus on small growth rates where the same knowledge base could be applied to massive growth. Right. So that's why, if all 5 disciplines, so we got strategy, business development, which is where marketing and sales and customer service fit in, execution, people, and mission. And when they all work together, then we see exponential growth. When they're not, when those 5 core disciplines, and I use the word discipline with real meaning, because it really is a discipline. You can't just be good at it one day. You got to be good at it permanently. So that's sort of the core behind it.
Yeah, it's I've told this story before, but it was like when I was learning how to golf, my dad got me golf lessons for my 23rd birthday. And I still don't know if he loved me or hated me.
I was going to say punishment or enjoyment.
Yeah. It's like, what are you trying to do, Dad? But so I'm a big guy, right? I mean, back then, I was 23 years old. I mean, strong as an ox, 6'2", 230 pounds, can bend steel, right? And I'm into it, man. I'm studying. I'm taking lessons. I got golf pros. I'm reading books. I'm just golfing like there's nobody's business. Like I got to win the Masters tomorrow, just hacking away. I got a little bit better. About a year and a half later, I'm reading these books and they're like, the average golfer hits a 7-iron 150 yards. So I'm hitting a 7-iron and I'm hitting it 130 yards, right? I mean, I'm like, I can't get to it. And I just got pissed off and I just threw it down. I grabbed an 8-iron and I flew it. And I grabbed a 9-iron. And I was like, a 9-iron is my club for 150. I was doing what quote unquote everybody else does. And the average golfer is 5'9", 155 pounds. And that's their distance.
Yep.
And so subconsciously, my body knew if I hit that 7-iron full, right, that thing's going 185, 190 yards, So I would ease up and I would decelerate and I couldn't even get it 150, so like kind of like what you're saying, when you take the blinders off, take the restrictors off, it's like, oh, holy crap, look at this. But if everybody says 10%, 15% growth, well, that's very good growth. I mean, why is that the norm instead of 150% growth? All right. So a little technical issue. So why is the small growth the norm?
I think that ultimately it's what everyone sees everybody else doing. So therefore they're okay with it. They see, and this goes back back to the reason I wrote this book. My buddy saying it just seems like magic that they have such massive growth. It's not magic. It's capable for anyone who follows that system. It's like a recipe of, making the best cake. I know I'm pretty good at grilling, but I get much, much better at grilling when I jump online and I watch a couple of guys grill it before me who are grill pit masters and say, all right, I'm going to follow those tips type thing. That's where ultimately when we get into business, when any of us gets into any strategy or doing anything new, we got to learn from someone who's been there before us. We can't just expect to turn it up and magically have it happen for ourselves.
Right. You know what it is too, I think, like doing jujitsu, we always make the joke that, oh, hey, watch out, man. I've been watching YouTube videos. Right. So you're learning this intricate, crazy move.
Yeah.
Right. Like kind of like I'm going to swing the club like Tiger Woods, but I'm built like John Daly. Right. Yeah. You're going to have problems there, buddy.
Yeah.
It's always the simple things. Right. We go back and it's just, and I'm stuck. And I grab a more senior guy and they're like, oh, show me just like magic tricks. Right. That's why you don't show magic. You go,
yeah.
Oh, that's the trick. I fell for that.
Yeah.
But I mean, oftentimes in business, just that simple, but they think it's something esoteric, something I must be missing something.
Yeah. Ultimately, the line I hear the most often when I teach business is it can't be that simple. Yes, it can be. Yes, it can. I've been teaching this stuff for 20-something years, and every time I sit and I teach business, I still get business owners and who struggle with, and sales guys and gals who struggle with understanding how easy this stuff can be. When I teach, so let's just take a look at the discipline of mission. Okay, discipline of mission is all about the human connection in a business. Do your customers love buying from you? Not like or feel okay about it, but do your customers, how do you get a customer to love the experience of buying? How do you get a team member, an employee, to love the experience of coming to work? And when you sit down with most people, they sort of say, well, Brad, I'm not sure that that's even possible. Yes, it is. Customers love buying from businesses every day. People love going to work every day. The question is, what are you doing that's making that not happen? And what can you do to make it happen in your business? And I see that happen. That transformation can happen in companies time and again. So yeah, mindset is the starting point of all of it. Getting the strategy right, getting all the other things right, obviously got to be in place too.
So what do they do? Do they give free coffee to everybody? Free laptops. You get a car and you get a car and hug them. I can hug everybody. As they come every day, I'll just hug them. But then I'm going to get sued for sexual harassment. So,
where's Winfrey in the house? Look,
you get a hug and you get a hug.
Yeah. And you get a lawsuit. No, it's not quite that way. Look, the ultimate thing is it comes back to what's the mission behind the organization? Where is the organization going? And what is the meaning from the organization? In today's world, and this is where I was doing a speech over in Ireland, and it was interesting because before me it was a baroness, and after me was Sir Richard Branson, and here's me, the Australian convict in the middle. And it's like, I'm doing this speech about building good people and stuff. I come off and there's Sir Richard and we say good day and how you doing? And he goes up on stage and he gets asked this question. And the question was, have you changed management in your companies since because of millennials and stuff? He said, his answer was one of the most blunt and best answers ever. He said, no, we've always done good management. And it's interesting how we've gone away from management to leadership, and we've got all of this, and this is why execution is such a challenge in many businesses today. They've lost the art of management, and when we get to that point of, millennials have changed it, and because they are the why generation, why do we have to do this? And in most companies, we've been able to be lazy, because if you look at, many generations past, you just told them to do their job. They knew how to do it because they knew how to learn. They'd grown up on a farm or they grew up fixing things. Today's kids have never fixed anything. They've never had to learn how to do that sort of process. And so management starts with why, or leadership starts with why, depends on what terminology you want to use. And it moves them through understanding why we're doing it, not just how to do it, not just what to do, but why we're doing it, to what standard are we doing it, and to what time frame are we doing it. There's many things, but the mission behind every company has got to add value. And that's why community and customers and staff, all of these different people have to be served by the growth of the business.
Well, that's what Simon Sinek wrote about, right? Start with why.
Yes, Simon hit on start with why at a really great time in the marketplace when everybody needed to understand that. And, it was interesting because I sat down with someone the other day at business owner. He said, these millennials, they just don't want to work. I said, yeah, what age, when did you grow up? He said, I grew up in the 60s. I said, pretty certain your generation was the one told they don't want to work either. Just remember, every one of us has been told by our parents and grandparents.
Hey, teacher, leave those kids alone, right?
It's that way. I mean, actually, I remember getting in trouble as a kid from my dad putting that on the jukebox. Why did you spend my money on that? Yeah. But, every one of us is a different generation, but management and leadership, that mission side of it. But then you flip over to strategy, and strategies had to shift too. We see strategy shifting from the biggest of companies to the smallest of companies. Take, what's an example? Apple had to shift strategy dramatically. They went from being a computer manufacturer and software manufacturer to a music business that's now a TV business and movie business and app business. They've never made a song, but they take 30 cents on the dollar for every song Sony builds or every song that's put out there. That's a great strategy.
How do you know when to change? Because obviously, those are great examples. I always use the example of IBM, in the 70s, 80s. Is it IBM compatible? Now they don't even make PCs.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times entrepreneurs, because they think it can't be that easy, they got all these irons in the fire. I got to be busy. They get bored with what made them.
Yeah.
And, like McDonald's sells chicken, but they never stop selling the Big Mac.
No. And they added breakfast, but they always kept the Big Mac. They added coffee, they kept the Big Mac.
But entrepreneurs get crazy.
There's a difference between a pivot and throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
Big difference in those things. I always say very clearly, you're going to have to change. The question is, do you wait till you actually have to change and you're about to die? Or do you start change and keep ahead of the marketplace? Do you keep ahead of the competitors? Do you keep ahead of what's going on in your industry? And the reality of it is you got to keep selling what you're selling while it's selling. But you do have to shift. You do have to keep moving. We look at, another very simple example is that of Zappos. They're born and raised here in Las Vegas. There's a company that sells shoes. Didn't reinvent the shoe, didn't reinvent how the shoe was made, still to this day don't make shoes. But they reinvented how you can get a shoe, how you can actually have it at your house tomorrow in 2 or 3 pairs and they'll ship it to you and you ship back the ones that don't fit type thing. So you don't have to reinvent the product all the time. You don't have to reinvent anything. All you have to reinvent is one segment of it, one part of it. And this is a lot of small business though, if I can put it bluntly, buddy, they want status quo. They want it to stay the same. And that, unfortunately, is never going to be the case. If your sales stay the same, your costs are rising at all times, you're out of business in 3 to 5. You've got to be on that growth path. A tree is either growing or dying. And if the tree stops growing, it's dying. And it's the same for a business, the same for any salesperson, the same for a business person. Got to keep the growth, got to keep the learning.
All right. So let's go back. We talk about, 15% growth, but then 150% growth. And then I could see an entrepreneur saying, I can't grow 150% if I just tweak shoes. I need to invent like anti-gravity shoes that have jetpacks and help you fly. Otherwise, I'm just going to get 15% growth.
Maybe. But then again, Ray Kroc, when he founded the McDonald business, they could have been going for 15% growth a year. But Ray Kroc asked a different question, said, how do I put this on every street corner in the country and then every street corner in the world? See, maybe your growth is just because you've kept it at one office for the last 50 years or 10 years. And you said, okay, we only need one office. Maybe you haven't expanded to another city. I'll give you an example. I just bought a commercial cleaning business. And here's this commercial cleaning business. Great. It's in one city. So in the first 2 years, we expand another 9 cities. I bought a company down in Houston, Texas, property management company. I'm sitting there, one office in Houston. I say, hang on a sec, this doesn't make sense. First year, 17 more offices. Sometimes we get so caught up in fixing the little that we forget. See, it's not about adding one new customer. It's how do we add 100? It's not about adding one new staff member. It's how do we open in another city or another state or another country? The questions that we look at in strategy are far greater than just how do we do this bit better in each area that we're looking at? I mean, there's so many great businesses out there, Wes, that you sit there and you look at me and you go, why is this not in every city? Because the business doesn't have that vision, doesn't have that knowledge base, doesn't have that desire to go to every city in the country. And maybe they could, it's not that hard when you sit down and look at it. It's just a different business strategy. It's like, you go into the music business, you could be the drummer playing drums at the local band, or you could be Spotify doing the whole world type thing. There's two different strategies. And there's many in between too, I guess.
Right. So in the last couple of interviews, I use the optometrist as the example. I got a friend here, it's an optometrist. I used to pick chiropractors because I've got a client that's a chiropractor. So what does he do? How does he grow his one location? Does he need to be in every city? Does he need 12 offices to grow, or can he grow one location and be huge?
He can grow one location and be huge, absolutely, if the market is there. That's the thing. Oftentimes geographic, and that's point 4 of strategy is sitting down looking at the marketability and opportunity side. If the market is there, and let's say he's got 10 competitors in his marketplace and he wants to increase his business tenfold, probably not going to happen, but can he take his systems to other cities and that sort of thing? I think the first thing that has to happen for that optometrist in many cases is the optometrist has to realize I'm a business person or an entrepreneur first and an optometrist second. One of our clients over in Atlanta, great medical doctor, board, head of the board, all that stuff, heart surgeon, all that. Until one day he has a problem with his heart. Got to have 2 stents put in. Realizes, hang on, I can't do this for the rest of my life. I got to become a business owner first and a doctor second. Built a business. Now he has 11 doctors working for him. They're doing all the operations. Built a surgery center. They're now doing it in his place rather than do you know what I mean? It's like sometimes you got to start sitting back and saying, is being the optometrist the ideal way to grow the business? And often it's not. But an optometrist is a great example of a business person who unfortunately sees their profession as the number one job rather than building the business as the number one job.
Right. Yeah, because everybody gets used to that person. It becomes that cult of personality. Huh? Oh, no.
I remember doing that early on in business, training my customers and training them. Oh, look, I'm the owner. I'm always here. Anytime you want help, just call me. And they did. And who's the fool? That'd be me. Why do they keep calling me? Well, because that's what you told them to do. You didn't teach them to do business with your team. You didn't teach them that. You taught your customers to be reliant on you. And gradually, you got to teach your customers to do business in a different way. And, customers, as much as customers, we hate saying they're trained. They're well trained in most cases.
So who was the first person you hired as you started growing?
First person I ever hired was a buddy of mine from college, Ross. Ross was the first guy I ever put on.
The one that drank all the beer and ate all the food, or was that a different Ross?
That was a different Ross.
Oh, okay. That guy, he was crazy, man. So did he stay with you?
No, he didn't. Because interestingly enough, when you run a business, teaching people how to run businesses and how to have their own business, and that's been my biggest, it's one of the big joys of my business. I get to teach, and my staff, they go on to build businesses, and I get to keep them for 3 to 5 years, and then they go on and build something for themselves. And
what was his role? Was it sales? Was it
actually he was ops, because I'm great at sales and marketing. There's the 3 core sides to a business. There's the operations, there's the finance and admin, and there's the sales and marketing. Those 3 cores of what needs to be. See, when I buy a business, I always look at it and say, okay, which of the 3 needs fixing? If it's 2 of the 3, I can't fix 2 out of 3. If it's only 1 of the 3, then I can fix that. And my specialty is the sales, marketing, and customer service side. So that's sort of what I look to buy. Now, Ross was in ops, and he's gone on to have a great business and raise a good family and all those sorts of things. All your college buddies, you kind of wonder where you all end up one day.
Right. Yeah. Very cool. So this doctor, how, because you talk about, are you building a business that people love? Do you have a mission that people love, that customers can love, that your staff can love? But then this well-known doctor that everybody does love, now he's hard to reach. Now he's working from home so he can focus and create great marketing content, and he's only in the office a couple of hours a day instead of 12 hours a day. And it's like, well, that's not the same doctor of optometry that I grew to know and love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had to change the marketing, had to change the strategy, had to change the customers. You introduce them to your team a certain way. But I'll tell you a fun story about this. Many years ago, one of my clients, a hairdresser, one of the most famous hairdressers, and won all the awards. And we're working through it. And I said to him at one point, I said, at some point, you're going to have to step back from your customers. He said, I can't possibly do that. Save from breaking my arm, there's no way I'm not going to be able to cut hair for some of my customers. I said, great idea. Fantastic idea. This weekend, you're going away skiing. Now, do you know any doctors? He said, yeah, I know a doctor. I said, good. Are they good friends of yours? He said, yes. I said, would they put a cast on your arm that will, and you can say you broke your arm so you can't cut hair? He said, yeah, but I'm not breaking my arm. I said, you don't need to break it. You just need to go and get the cast. Came back to his business, told all of his customers, broke his arm. 6 weeks later, he gets the cast off. Now, his customers have all had their hair cut by another team member in his staff. He's hung out with them and introduced them and done all that sort of stuff. He comes back, doubles his prices. 4 out of 5 of his customers stay with the other staff. 1 in 5 comes back to him at double the prices. He works 1 day a week cutting hair, 4 days a week running the business. Now, I'm not saying everyone has to go down that road, but you eventually have to build yourself a time scale whereby you will step back and step back and step back. And that's part of execution and the systemization of the business and how you plan that stuff. So again, chapter whatever in the book, we go through that one.
I remember Zig Ziglar telling a story like that. A lady broke her leg and she was in sales. And so she couldn't drive, like a big,
had to learn the phone
kind of thing, had to hire a driver and kept going to her sales and things exploded. Yeah. She just found another way to work, and then she's got a driver. Now she can get work done. I mean, so you never know, man. Blessing or curse, just like roll with it. But
it's a fun thing that you have to get the challenge to be there. Like, let's go back to what we used Apple as an example. Apple was in curse land. They were almost bankrupt when Steve Jobs came back to save Apple. But luckily enough, he'd gone off to run Pixar. He bought Pixar and turned that into a multi-billion-dollar company, sold it to Disney, and then but you start to look, he learned collaborative management, but he also learned leverage. And he learned how to build something once and sell it 1 million times. You make a movie, you'd sell it forever. So he came back to Apple with that mindset of how do I sell something forever that we only have to make once? Or in his case, even smarter, he never even had to make it. He went over to Sony and said, hey, can I borrow that thing called the MP3 player you guys invented? Oh, and by the way, can I sell your music and take 30% on it for selling on my platform? Just genius stuff when you sit down and look at it strategically. Right. Yeah. So how do you know like what that move needs to be? I mean, it's people are struggling and they're going to have 18 different tabs open on their computers. They're going to be, I need to do more Instagram. I need to learn PPC. It's email marketing. I'm not doing enough video. I need to do more video. And they get lost in the weeds, but everybody's sincere. Oh, I know how to turn your business around. Do more video. Yeah, no. You know what, buddy? I'll say 3 answers to that. Number 1, too busy is the new stupid. I cannot get past when people say I'm too busy. Doing what? Doing what? What are you doing? And then I get to the second point around that comment you made, and that is hiding behind Instagram, hiding behind YouTube, hiding behind all of these things is just exactly that, hiding. They're a mid to long-term strategy. All social media is a mid to long-term strategy. Yeah, pay-per-click can be a short-term strategy, but then you got to learn click funneling, which is a mid-term strategy, and so on. So there's a lot of worth to that. The thing is about learning how to grow the business is it is step by step. There's not a magic pill. There's no silver bullet to go and do this thing. You don't double a business by one idea that gives you 100%. You double a business by 100 ideas that give you 1%. Each 1% is a very big part of what creates the growth. It's not about just that one thing. As much as I enjoyed watching City Slickers, I disagree with them. It's not the one thing, Curly. In business, it's about 100 small things that actually get us that big result. Ultimately, you got to start with number 1, though, and that is understand that if you don't know what you're doing, it's because there's some reading to be done or some studying to be done. Or if this is your first time, by the way, watching Wes's podcast, you got to get on this thing. Just subscribe. Don't just do one. Do all of them. Go back and download all the old ones, for goodness sake. The fact is, buddy, that the vast majority of the time, a business will grow to the owner's level of incompetence. And once you run out of the ability to come up with new stuff, then you got to start reading. You got to start learning. You can't out-earn your learning. That's just a simple fact of life. Yeah. Did you have that one big mission when you started, or did you grow into that? Oh, buddy, grew into it. grew into it. It's, I sat down when I wrote the vision of Action Coach. I think we were probably 4 or 5 years in. And I remember being in Auckland, New Zealand, and I'd been doing 220 seminars a year. I was burning my candle at both ends. Lucky I was still young and single. It was the only way I could have possibly done that. I remember sitting there one time just thinking, this is just stupid. This is not the way to build a business. This is just me running myself ragged, flying from Hong Kong to Boston to Sydney. It just made no sense. So I sat down and said, if I'm going to do this teaching thing, I'm actually make a business out of it. And now, I work 12 hours a week running my businesses. And that's basically the way it is because I followed the system that now I wrote in a book. I mean, before I wrote the first book I wrote on the system of building the business, The Business Coach, we'd coached more than 13,000 companies before I actually put a book together saying this is how you grow a business. The recipe was proven.
Right. Very nice. I think we'll leave it at that. Although I haven't done this in a while. Final question. You ready?
Yeah.
Because if you listen to a few recent episodes, you haven't heard this. I got to spring one on you. So our listeners, because I love what you're saying, take action, right? It's, I was just telling my son yesterday, he's off for the summer. He just finished his junior year in college. And I'm like, dude, you got to get out of balance, right? You got to get fanatical. None of this work-life balance. You got 90 days. Get crazy. Dive into something. Even if it doesn't work, figure it out. You got 90 days to figure it out. Won't that be nice to know? Like you can rule out 1 or 2 or 10 things. But maybe one will, right? But take that action. So I love it. But so what, a lot of times, like when I listen to podcasts, I'm driving, I'm at the gym or whatever. I can't do whatever right that moment. And then I might forget. So what should our listeners do? Imagine they're on a mountain bike. They're like, okay, this was good. I got this warm fuzzy. Brad's got a nice accent. Maybe I'll listen to it again. What should they do? After listening to this, what one thing should they for sure, no matter what, go do to move their business forward as a result of listening to this?
I think just ask yourself the question, instead of 30% growth, how do I get 30 times? It's going to hurt in the beginning because you're not going to have an answer. You're going to have to read the book and read other books to get that. But ask yourself the question, challenge yourself with that. That's why, I built a business coaching company because that's the main job of a great mentor, to challenge you to a level of ability that you don't challenge yourself to. But ask yourself that question. Instead of 30% growth, how do I get 30 times? Well, that's the real challenging question. And that's where it all starts.
Yeah. It'll force you to grow, force you to hire, right? Mm-hmm. Force you to hire better. And then you'll see where all the weaknesses are. Problems don't go away. You just get new problems, huh?
Business teaches us the things we don't know every single day. It's sort of like, oh, you didn't know this. Oh, let me teach you that today.
Wow.
It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. It's the most exciting way of doing it. Other than your own business, doing that stuff. I think it's exciting. I think it's challenging, but it'll never get easy. You just got to get better at it.
Yeah. Just like jujitsu. Every day I learn what I'm not good at.
Yeah, when that guy takes you down, I better practice that one. Yeah.
Oh, fought this black belt today. He had me in this nasty position, but he didn't finish. Praise the Lord. So I'm too stubborn. And my gi, he's cranking me with this bow and arrow. I'm just going. It's cutting my neck. And I'm like, no, I think I can still breathe. And then I started laughing because he's cranking, and I'm choking, but I'm still breathing. And I get the giggles.
And then of course he's really into it at that point in time. Yeah, this is exciting. This guy's laughing at me.
But I know he can't finish. I know he can't because I'm still 220. He's probably 170.
Yeah.
So if he was bigger, he'd have gotten it. But and I know he's getting tired because I feel him readjust. He lets off. He does it again. I start laughing. He does it again. I'm like, I'm not quitting.
Some days it feels like that, and you just got to laugh at it.
Oh, well, yeah. Literally in jiu-jitsu, you go years of just trying to be harder to kill. And then eventually you learn some offense and, and you learn how to kill them. But most people quit before that happens because it's humbling, right? Very small people. Like I've succeeded in basketball and football and whatever. And because I'm bigger and stronger, it does not matter in jiu-jitsu.
No.
And it's so humbling, and people, they quit. They literally quit because some little guy got them, or a lower belt gets you. You're like, whoa, and it hurts their ego, and they quit. So that's why I love it. So I think it applies to business, applies to everything. So, well, very nice. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the book. Thank you for coming on the show. And my wife loves Vegas. So I'll give you a shout when we're heading up.
Perfect. I look forward to seeing the results when you read it. That'll be the next challenge.
All right. I'm on it. Thank you, sir.
Bye now.
the 5 disciplines for exponential growth. The people component has never changed. I mentioned my next guest, Andrew Paul. He focuses on humans. That keeps coming up more and more with my guests. That's why I like having them on. And it's encouraging to see that despite all of the radical changes in technology and social media platforms and whatever, the human side never changes. And I think I bring it up in another interview coming up, but I've said it before. People have asked, do I have a niche? And I'm like, yeah, my niche is helping humans sell to humans. All right, I've written copywriting that converted for a company in Tucson that trained people on asbestos removal. So in a 3-day workshop, I wrote copy like that for an executive coach, for a guy that does high-end portraits in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. A coach, a mortgage broker, because people are people. If I can pull it out of you, what really makes you different, what really makes you unique, and a lot of people don't know. A lot of my private coaching, I get into that, pulling that out of you. And it's not always easy because it's buried deep inside of us a lot of times. We are withholding our excellence. We're literally, like in the Bible, they talk about lighting a lamp and putting it under a bushel basket. That's what most of us do. That's why businesses fail, because you are raised to not toot your own horn. But then you get into business and you have to. You've got to create that word of mouth marketing. You've got to create buzz through PR, through podcasts, through speaking, something, right? You got to get the word out. Once you figure that out, it gets easy. But that initial step is hard. And, I've talked about it a little bit more lately, but private coaching is one of the things. It's ramping up. More and more people are finding me because they're just tired of struggling. And the coaching that I do is short and intensive. We start on a 90-day program and move the needle. Okay? So if you're looking for this kind of help, like what Brad was talking about, like he says, if you got better at business, business gets easier. Right? This granular goal setting. That's hard. It's easy to have these big, humongous goals, but what are you going to do today? What are you going to do this hour? What are you going to do after listening to this podcast to move the needle? And it's easy to get caught up in the minutia. We call it majoring in the minors. They have to get done. It doesn't always have to get done by you. It doesn't always have to get done during working hours. Maybe you do it at night or weekend and focus on the big rocks. That's hard. Okay, I love what he talks about, starting with the mindset of exponential growth. We look around and we see everybody else. Oh, if I can only grow 10%. I had one client, they want to grow 3%. That was their goal. I was like, that's ridiculous. Let's grow 30, right? And it's a tough industry. It was, every industry is competitive, right? But it was a low-tech industry. So it's not like they could create an app and explode things overnight. But 3% growth was way too small. And then if you aim for 30, let's say you only grow 10. Is that a failure? Right? It's 333% more than you planned on growing. But we look around at everyone else and we judge ourselves on the competition. If they're all growing 3 to 5, you think, well, that's reasonable, that's rational. As long as we can maintain our market share, we'll figure it out next year. No. Go kick your competition's butt. But who's helping you with this mindset? But you see, there's always a dichotomy. You have this big exponential growth, but then you still have to do your 5 daily goals. Just like working out. You want to improve your lifting. You want to get in better cardio shape. You want to train for a marathon. That's great. But what are you eating today? Are you going to have a Coke? Right? Or are you going to have maybe a plain iced tea? Those little things add up to the big things. And being accountable to somebody is what helps move the needle. When you look around, you see these people doing big things, whether it's golf, whether it's the NBA championships going on right now. You got the Warriors in Toronto. Toronto's putting a whooping on them. But in business, Brad, myself, whatever, we have coaches. I'm recording this intro and outro on a Saturday. I leave Monday for Ohio for a 3-day workshop with some big-brained people. I'm always looking for that edge. And that's what I bring to my clients, my private coaching clients, are the things that I learn. I don't hold back. That's why the training starts out at just 90 days. Sometimes people renew. A lot of times they renew, but you don't have to, right? I want you to grow quickly. Now, what happens though is when you grow, it's kind of like golf. You figure out how to hit better drivers, but now you got to get better with your approach irons. Then you got to get better with your wedges. You got to get better with your putting. And then 2 or 3 years go by, and you got to get back working on your driver. Competition gets better. Maybe you get an injury. Maybe you got to modify things. You can't hit it as far off the tee box. You got to get better with your irons. So there's always something to work on, which is why people always, great people doing great things, always have coaches. They have advisors to help them go through these different phases in business and in life. So if that's you, hit me up. Just go to thesaleswhisperer.com, hit the contact us, select the private coaching, and you'll get a link to my calendar, and we'll talk. We'll see if it's right. Because I'm not right for everybody. I get it. And I want to work with the right people. And if we're not right, I'll give you a recommendation of a couple of people that are right based on what we discover in that call. Okay? So, hey, thanks for listening. I keep forgetting to mention this too. I'm adding more notes and links to these episodes, and I rarely do it myself on podcasts, but I'm starting to do it a little more. But if you swipe up on the podcast, there's some notes and there's links to other things. So check that out. That may help you, so you don't have to remember things or open a new browser. Just click it and it'll open for you. And then, please be sure to subscribe. As each episode comes out, it'll get pushed right to you. So thanks for doing those things. Thanks for sharing the love, putting the word out. Don't go sell something.